Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 27th. A little darker in here and got up early today, although the days are getting shorter and shorter. So it takes quite a bit before the sun comes up. I'm actually gonna open these blinds in front of me. It won't be coming up for another couple of hours, but I'm gonna catch the first glimpse of it when it does. So, my birthday is coming up in just a couple days on the 29th. I'll be turning 34, or as the new phrase I've adopted is, I'm as old as the stars and as young as my heart. It's a beautiful sentiment. Well, and age really, it's more about energy than I think it is about age. I plan to be one of those ladies who is hiking through New Zealand and doing yoga well into my 80s and 90s. So, anywho, as this birthday comes close, I've been doing some introspection. I like to do this. I think a lot of people do. Just to assess the year. This is in a lot of ways more interesting and important and valuable to me, reflecting on this year. My return around this to the same position around the sun is more interesting than New Year's resolutions in a lot of ways, and that's saying a lot for me because I'm a big planning goal nut. So I've also been listening to a lot of tarot card readings lately, which is new for me. The last year I didn't do that. And more generally, I have been trying to look inward for my own guidance. However, there are a select couple of women that I listen to. One's name is San, and another is Raji. Both of them introduced to me by my mom, who's really into tarot cards. She's actually a pretty decent reader herself. I really hope she designs a deck, paints a deck of tarot cards. She's such a gifted artist. We've talked about it before. I'm sure she'll do it. I hope she does it soon. Maybe she'll give me a deck for my birthday that she designs. That'd be awesome. But at any rate, the reason I bring it up is this one Raji does readings for people. Like, she just recently did one for Scorpio birthday, and one of the things she encouraged, which reminded me, was to go back and look at the lessons that I've learned over the past year. So I've written them down, and I'm just going to talk them through. So yeah, without further ado, here we go. Lessons learned from my 33rd year around the sun. All right. They're in no particular order, although I do think this first one is most important. Loving myself unconditionally and remembering my worth are my greatest mission in this life. You know, it's easy to extrapolate my own experience onto everyone else's, but I strongly feel that this is also the mission for most, if not all of us in this life. Just remembering how great we are, that we can do no wrong, that despite whatever shit we went through as kids, whether you were beat, neglected, adopted, you felt like you were adopted, whatever it is, everyone's got something. And we're unlearning that in our life and peeling that off and remembering our innate worthiness. So for me, for certain, loving myself unconditionally is my greatest mission. And I've seen great strides in that this year. So often in my self-worth has resided in what I feel like is a successful life situation. What people think of me. And that's okay, that's human. And there's a lot less pain and a lot more fulfillment and richness and experience when I focus on loving myself. So that's number one. The next one, my suffering is here to teach me compassion and forgiveness. My suffering is here to teach me compassion and forgiveness. Now, while I don't necessarily know if it's healthy to look for a lesson in everything, it's helpful to me. Like, I don't know that. I mean, sometimes I think it's nice to just let an experience be an experience and not analyze the hell out of it, is what I mean by that. But in particular, I feel like this year, the suffering that I felt, not to be dramatic, but we all have suffering, especially amidst the pandemic. I think this has been all a lesson for me to teach me compassion and forgiveness for my dad. In a lot of ways, it was almost easier to forgive my mom. I don't think easier is the best way to put it. It just happened. There were 20 years I didn't talk to my mom. I know, big deal. And then one day it just happened like that. I realized that I had been blaming her for feelings of abandonment, for fear of abandonment. She's my scapegoat. And I realized also that I got to decide if she hurt me. I felt empowered in that way. And it loosened my grip and my expectations of what she should be as a mom. And our relationship has blossomed, and it's never been the same. Meaning, it just gets better and better. I talk to her almost every day. Now, my dad and I used to be really close. And it's been strained, I'd say, the last maybe decade, longer probably, at least overtly. I've felt the strain overtly, and a lot of that comes from fear in my perception of who he is, or I should say my inner child, how I perceived him growing up, has kind of bled over into my adulthood. What do I mean by that? Well, in a lot of ways, sadly, I seen him as a failure, as someone I can't trust or rely on, as someone who's disappointing. Because these are things I have felt repeatedly from him, growing up. And I see his struggle, his suffering. He's struggled with alcoholism his whole life. Now he's struggling with food. My grandma, in her codependency, smothered him completely, rendered him feeling ineffective at everything. She did everything for him. She still would to this day if she could. I honestly think her being in a nursing home and unable to be over him in that way, hover over him in that way, has helped him thrive. So my fear in life, one of the major ones, is that I end up like my dad, and I you know, am self-defeating and, you know, have no one in terms of a significant other. That's a big fear, because he hasn't really dated anyone seriously since he and my mom split up when I was 8. That's a long time. And that I would just be stagnant and live in the same place, struggle financially. And I'm smiling because this year, as I've found myself back in Cincinnati, as I found myself separated from a significant other, as I found myself struggling somewhat financially, I find myself being put in what looks like on paper a very similar situation as my dad. And I can see from my point of view how challenging that feels, and how I'm still doing my very best, even if it doesn't necessarily look the way I'd want it to look sometimes. Some parts of myself would like it to look. And I just have such compassion for him. It loosens the judgment. It opens me to forgiveness. I'm going to share all this when I have brunch with him this weekend for my birthday. It gives me hope for our relationship and for dissolving this fear. This fear of being alone, of not going anywhere with my career, of struggling with finances. Which brings me to my next lesson, which is you reap what you sow. Sounds so obvious, but it's easy to want shortcuts. Even for someone who works as hard selectively on things that I really enjoy as I do, there are shortcuts that I look for, especially around work, relationships, and finance. Oddly enough, the things I'm worried about. Integrity, man. So I am learning to put in the reps every day. I've done it before and, you know, been disciplined and seen many goals through, and I've just needed time to rest and to heal. And I've also taken a lot of shortcuts, even as I worked hard in certain areas. So I'm working to strengthen my integrity. This is getting long, 13 minutes. I'm gonna keep going. The next one is look inward and feel inward. This has been the year of embodiment for me, for truth. Look and feel inward for truth. Someone who is, it's easy for me to look outside of myself, either to the reactions and emotions and, you know, how I perceive others feel about me, as well as my outward circumstances, life situation. Those things are all, in a lot of ways, a product of my past actions. They're all what life has given me to learn from, and just to be with. I think tuning inward, the back of the heart, looking at what it is that I need there, what do I feel there, and responding to that, that's been very gratifying and grounding and soothing. So, big lesson there. Another one, gratitude is your greatest currency. Gratitude has changed the game for me. See that purple bathrobe back there that I wear in most of my videos? I wear around everywhere. I carry this little gratitude rock in there that I just have my hand in my pocket, and I just, it reminds me every time I feel it in my hand to be grateful. I have a lot to be grateful in this world, a lot of people who love me. I have my health, which is worth more than anything else, really. I have peace of mind, more than I've ever had. That's the truth. And I have a wonderful family who loves and supports me, and that I've allowed myself to receive from them in a way I've never allowed before. I've been too proud to, needed to prove myself. I feel like that proving phase is, that particular one anyway, is come and gone. There's several more. The next one, open my palm. Intensity is beautiful. Intensity is a big part of me. And it can create pain when it comes to love or to truth. I've learned from many of my relationships that I start in very intensely. I get very excited when I find someone who I feel like aligns with me. And out of fear of loss or, again, excitement or habit, I rush in. And that intensity doesn't give me the space or the time to feel safe with someone or with my judgment of I don't know where I was going with that. But taking it slow and releasing that grip a little bit when it comes to that, and with truth. So this year, there's been so much debate about so many topics. People are more divided than ever. And when I can loosen my grip on what truth is, in my opinion, I find that it allows space for people to be, and it allows for room to discover something new. All right, I'm going to choose a few more. Everything is here to help me. That's been a big mantra this year. I think it's also helped me cultivate that gratitude and that trust in life. I saw this as a meme, but I liked it, and it's, I choose my own hard. Everything can be hard. The mind is expert at finding problems to chew on. And it can be hard to be disciplined with food, you know, to turn down sweets, but it can also be hard to feel the effects of my body recovering from that. So I get to pick which hard I want, moment to moment. So that's something to keep in mind. Everything can be hard. Goes back again to the intensity and with the relationships. Go slowly, take my time. Goes against my instinct, but I'm practicing. Here's another good one. This relates to that codependency I learned from my family. Controlling others is my default when I am contracted. It's how I learned to be safe as a child. I can cultivate safety and also feel into my body and observe when this reaction begins. Again, this embodiment has been huge for me. I can feel when that controlling happens, where it happens in my throat and my chest, and observe it. And then the next one is get curious versus critical. So again, I'm relating to that, getting curious about those feelings, getting curious about judgments or fears I have versus trying to get rid of it, trying to suppress it. And lastly, but not most importantly necessarily, is that my health, my finances, home, appearance, how I treat others can be reflections about how I feel toward myself. So, looking inward, having compassion, letting my outward expression be a reflection of that. I think that's a really fulfilling place to stand. So, those are my reflections from this year. I'm excited to look back on these. Maybe check in each quarter or mid-year. see how I'm applying these lessons. So, not quite my birthday yet. Happy early birthday. I'm excited for the day. Cheers.